Hi friends, it's Em, and while it is currently November, I am back planning my journal, so we're talking about September today. And honestly, I'm glad we are because I read so many good books in September, and I need to tell you about them. Like it's a need. It's not a want, it's a need. So in September, I read 25 books. At some point, I was like tracking the number of pages or whatever that I had read. I just abandoned that this month, and then that's fine. But 25 books, and I have, oh my goodness, how many are there? 10 favorites from this month. So that's 40% of the books that I read this month I'm listing as favorites, which is pretty freaking awesome. So let's get into it. This month in September, I was focused really on reading books that I wanted to read and mainly books that were on my shelf. So I, you know, I love a good NetGalley November moment, but September was not that month. So first in the favorites that I read was Apprentice to the Villain, which is the second book. It's the second book to Assistant to the Villain. I really liked it. It's a cozy fantasy romp. People are commenting or complaining about the romance or lack thereof. Well, it's not a romance, guys. I do think that a little bit of some of the yearning in it is a little bit too much, but overall, I had a great time, and I am very excited for the next book. She just announced the title, but I don't remember what it is. So, whoops. Then there's The Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love by India Holton. And this is about two rival ornithologists who, there's sort of like a bird of the year or birder of the year competition in, this is like Regency, 1900s, 1800s London. But in this world, ornithologists are like rock stars. They are just so cool. And this bird of the year competition is sort of meant to drum up interest. It was hilarious on audiobook. Like, I was laughing out loud. There's a lot of subterfuge and like subtext that some of our characters aren't seeing, but we get some fun asides. And I really enjoyed it. Like, I was like, do I like historical fiction? Maybe I do, only if it's fantasy and there's like birds that breathe fire. So they're basically dragons. I don't know. I also read A Pirate's Life for Tea. That's by Rebecca Thorne, which is just like, it's so sapphic. It's so fantasy, pirates, cozy. It is the second in a series, so, just keep that in mind. Like, it is, but you don't technically have to read the first one, but you should. That's kind of how it goes. I also read and loved How to Age Disgracefully, which, like, it's a Claire Pooley book, so it makes you, believe in humanity again. And this is sort of about a retirement center, community center, where like they're losing their funding and they need to get funding, and all of these threads just kind of like come together in the funniest freaking way ever. And I loved it. Also, this September was kind of the month of me reading things that I don't usually read. I read from 9 different genres. Usually it's a little bit closer to 5. I read Tom Lake by Ann Patchett, which really, it was narrated by Meryl Streep and was just like the most phenomenal audiobook I've listened to in a while. But it just made me want to call my mom when we were reading it together, and it was just like such a sweet book, which I don't even really know. It's kind of like a book about nothing, but like also about everything. I don't know. If It Makes You Happy by Julia Olivia is the perfect fall rom-com read. It is a thick boy, but it is Gilmore Girls in a book. And if that's not enough to convince you to read it, I don't know what is. And then I finally read, oh my god, As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow, which I don't know why I thought that this was going to be a light read. No, it's about war in Syria. And like specifically about someone who was in pharmacy school who's now like a surgeon because of necessity. It's a lot. But it was incredibly powerful. And like some of the things in this book I just like, you know, I'm privileged enough that they had never had to cross my mind. But also just there were plot twists that I was not expecting, and it was, whew, it's a lot. Like, I also read my first Elsie Silver this month. I read Wild Love, which is like the perfect billionaire secret baby. And that's not a spoiler. That happens in the first 2 chapters. Like I'm in. I think I'm in. I have Wild Eyes on my shelf to read next. I don't know what the tropage is there necessarily, but like I'm ready. There is this scene in Wild Love with a pen, and like I don't think I'm ever gonna be able to look at pens the same way. It is obscenely hot. And that's it. I don't know. I also finally read Dungeons and Drama, which is about a musical theater student who, after she steals her mom's car to go see, I think, Six in one town over, is forced to drop all of her extracurricular activities and work at her dad's game store. And so, you know, she is very against it to begin with, but eventually falls in love with Dungeons and Dragons, which is obviously, you know, one of my favorite pastimes. And I really enjoyed it. It's really cute. There's some fake dating involved. We also get to actually see a little bit of their D&D campaign, which I personally loved. And she's also trying to save her school's musical, which is just like amazing. And then my final favorite of the month, which I still think about this book on a daily basis. It's This Book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead. This comes out in 2025. Be ready. Get ready. This is a kind of like almost an expose on true crime, but from a fictional perspective, of how, you know, the good of the true crime genre, in that, you know, it tends to get more eyes on things, it can solve cold cases, but at the same time, how it can also be kind of like trauma porn, or it can just use people and their stories for your personal gain. And we're following a girl who, she's grieving the death of her father, and she sort of falls into this hobby almost for her. And there's footnotes, which for me, usually I'm not a footnote girl, but I really enjoyed it. I don't want to say too much about the plot of this book, apart from that I freaking loved it. Just like I've loved all of Ashley Winstead's thrillers. And if you liked her previous ones, I would recommend this for you as well. This coming up, I'm trying to be a little more focused on my NetGalley, just because I had gotten down to 20 unread at one point, and now I'm back up to 30. I don't know. But, you know, I also want to enjoy my reading. I want to read books that I want to read when I want to read them. That doesn't depend on pub dates. Still haven't read The Oleander Sword. But, you know, that's fine. Let me know what you're currently reading, or what the last book that you loved was in the comments. I love seeing that you guys sound off down there, and get, you know, a few little book recs for myself, and happy planning.